Financial sector is the backbone of any economy and it plays a crucial role in the mobilization and allocation of resources. The constituents of the financial sector are banks, financial institutions, instruments and markets which mobilize the resources from the surplus sector and channelize the same to the different needy sectors in the economy. The process of increasing capital accumulation through institutionalization of savings and investment fosters economic growth. The main objectives of the financial sector reforms are to allocate the resources efficiently, increasing the return on investment and accelerated growth of the real sectors in the economy. The measures initiated by the Government of India under the reform process are meant to increase the operational efficiency of each of the constituent of the financial sector. The discussion of the present text has been restricted to the role of the development banks in the era of reforms. After starting this module, you shall be able to know about the Indian financial sector in early 1990s, know about financial sector reforms in various aspects. Let us first discuss the financial sector during pre-liberalization. Until the beginning of the 1990s, the state of the financial sector in India could be described as a classic example of financial repression. The sector was characterized by first, administered interest rates, large preemption of resources by the authorities, and extensive micro-regulations directing the major portion of the flow of funds to and from financial intermediaries. While the true health of financial intermediaries, most of them public sector entities, was masked by relatively second, opaque accounting norms and limited disclosure. There were general concerns about their viability. Insurance companies, both life and non-life, were all publicly owned and offered very little product choice. Third, complex regulations and extensive restrictions. In the securities market, new equity issues were governed by a plethora of complex regulations and extensive restrictions. There were very little transparency and depth in the secondary market trading of such securities. Interest rates on government securities, the predominant segment of fixed income securities, were decided through administered fiat. The market for such securities was a captive one where the players were mainly financial intermediaries who had to invest in government securities to fulfill high statutory reserve requirements. There was little depth in the foreign exchange market as most such transactions were governed by inflexible and low limits and also prior approval requirements. Compartmentalization of activities of different types of financial intermediaries eliminated the scope for competition among existing financial intermediaries. In addition, strong entry barriers thwarted competition from new entrants. The end results was low levels of financial sector on the one hand and severe credit constraints for the productive entities on the other, especially for those in the private sector. The other major drawback of this regime was the scant attention that was placed on the financial health of the intermediaries. Fourth, capitalization levels were low. The lack of commercial considerations in credit planning and weak recovery culture resulted in large accumulation of non-performing loans. This had no impact on the confidence of depositors, however, because of government ownership of banks and financial intermediaries. Fifth, predominance of government securities in the fixed income securities market of India mainly reflects the captive nature of this market, as most financial intermediaries need to invest a sizable portion of funds mobilized by them in such securities. While such norms were originally devised as a prudential measure during certain periods, such statutory norms preempted increasing proportion of financial resources from intermediaries to finance high government borrowings. The interest rate on government debt was administered and the rate of interest charged by the Reserve Bank of India (RBI) for financing government deficit was concessional. Sixth, limited external capital flows. Such a closed economy setup kept debt markets underdeveloped and devoid of any competitive forces. In addition, there was hardly any secondary market for government securities, and such transactions were highly opaque and operated through over-the-telephone deals. The provision of fiscal accommodation through ad hoc treasury bills led to high levels of monetization of fiscal deficit during the major part of the 1980s. 7. Phase of nationalization and social control of financial intermediaries, however, was not without considerable positive implications as well. The sharp increase in the rural branches of banks increased saving and deposit growths considerably. There was a marked rise in credit flow towards economically important but hitherto neglected activities, most notably agriculture and small-scale industries. The urban bias and marked preference of banks to lend to the industrial sector, especially large industrial houses, was contained. The implicit guarantee emanating from public ownership created an impression of infallibility of these institutions, and the expectation was self-fulfilling. There was no major episode of failure of financial intermediaries in this period. Starting from such a position, it is widely recognized that the Indian financial sector after 1991 has been transformed into a reasonably sophisticated, diverse and resilient system. However, the transformation has been the culmination of extensive, well-sequenced and coordinated policy measures aimed at making the Indian financial sector efficient, competitive and stable. Moving on to the approach of the financial sector reforms. The initiation of financial reforms in the country during the early 1990s was to a large extent conditioned by the analysis and recommendations of various committees and working groups set up to address specific issues. The process has been marked by gradualism, with measures being undertaken after extensive consultations with experts and market participants. From the beginning of financial reforms, India has resolved to attain standards of international best practices, but to fine-tune process keeping in view the underlying institutional and operational considerations. Reform measures introduced across sectors as well as within each sector were planned in such a way so as to reinforce each other. Attempts were made to simultaneously strengthen the institutional framework while enhancing the scope for commercial decision making and market forces in an increasingly competitive framework. At the same time, the process did not lose sight of the social responsibilities of the financial sector. However, for fulfilling such objectives, rather than using administrative fiat or coercion, attempts were made to provide operational flexibility and incentives so that the desired ends are attained through broad interplay of market forces. The major aim in the early phase of reforms, known as first generation of reforms, was to create an efficient, productive and profitable financial service industry operating within the environment of operating flexibility and functional autonomy. While these reforms were being implemented, the world economy also witnessed significant changes. The focus of the second phase of financial sector reforms, starting from the second half of the 1990s, therefore, has been the strengthening of the financial system and introduction of structural improvements. Two brief points need to be mentioned here. First, financial reforms in the early 1990s were preceded by the measures aimed at lessening the extent of financial repression. However, unlike in the latter period, the earlier efforts were not part of a well thought out and comprehensive agenda for extensive reforms. Second, financial sector reform in India was an important component of the comprehensive economic reform process initiated in the early 1990s, whereas economic reforms in India were also initiated following an external sector crisis. Unlike many other emerging market economies where economic reforms were driven by a boom-bust pattern of policy liberalization, in India, reforms followed a consensus-driven pattern of sequenced liberalization across the sectors. That is why, despite several changes in government, there has not been any reversal of direction in the financial sector reform process over the last 2 decades. An important salient feature of the move towards globalization of the Indian financial system has been the intent of the authorities to move towards international best practices. This is illustrated by the appointment of several advisory groups designed to benchmark Indian practices with international standards in several crucial areas of importance like monetary policy, banking supervision, data dissemination, corporate governance and the like. Towards the end, a standing committee on international financial standards and codes, Chairman Y.V. Reddy, was constituted and the recommendations contained therein have either been implemented or are in the process of implementation. Next, we shall discuss the policy reforms in the financial sector. The story of Indian financial reforms has been divided into 4 parts, viz. Banking reforms, debt market reforms, forex market reforms, reforms in other segments of the financial sector. Banking reforms. Commercial banking constitutes the largest segment of the Indian financial system. Despite the general approach of the financial sector reform process to establish regulatory convergence among institutions involved in broadly similar activities, given the large systemic implications of the commercial banks, many of the regulatory and supervisory norms were initiated first for commercial banks and were later extended to other types of financial intermediaries. After the nationalization of major banks in 2 waves, starting in 1969, the Indian banking system became predominantly government owned by the early 1990s. Banking sector reform essentially consisted of a 2-pronged approach, while nudging the Indian banking system to better health through the introduction of international best practices in prudential regulation and supervision early in the reform cycle. The idea was to increase competition in the system gradually. The implementation periods for such norms were, however, chosen to suit the Indian situation. Special emphasis was placed on building up the risk management capabilities of the Indian banks. Measures were also initiated to ensure flexibility, operational autonomy and competition in the banking sector. Active steps have been taken to improve the institutional arrangements, including the legal framework and technological system within which the financial institutions and markets operate. Keeping in view the crucial role of effective supervision in the creation of an efficient and stable banking system, the supervisory system has been revamped. Unlike in other market countries, many of which had the presence of government-owned banks and financial institutions, banking reform has not involved large-scale privatization of such banks. The approach instead first involved recapitalization of banks from government resources to bring them up to appropriate capitalization standards. In the second phase, instead of privatization, increase in capitalization has been done through diversification of ownership to private investors up to a limit of 49%, thereby keeping majority ownership and control with the government. With such widening of ownership, most of these banks have been publicly listed. This was designed to introduce greater market discipline in bank management and greater transparency through enhanced disclosure norms. The phased introduction of new private sector banks and expansion in the number of foreign bank branches provided from new competition. Meanwhile, increasingly tight capital adequacy, prudential and supervision norms were applied equally to all banks regardless of ownership. Next is government debt market reforms. Major reforms have been carried out in the government securities GSEC debt market. In fact, it is probably correct to say that the functioning GSEC debt market was really initiated in the 1990s. The system had to essentially move from a strategy of preemption of resources from banks at administered interest rates and through monetization to a more market-oriented system. prescription of a statutory liquidity ratio SLR, that is the ratio at which banks are required to invest in approved securities, though originally devised as a prudential measure, was used as the main instrument of preemption of bank resources in the pre-reform period. The high SLR requirement created a captive market for government securities, which were issued at low administered interest rates. After the initiation of reforms, this ratio has been reduced in phases to the statutory minimum level of 25%. Over the past few years, numerous steps have been taken to broaden and deepen the government securities market and to raise the levels of transparency. Automatic monetization of the government's deficit has been phased out, and the market borrowings of the central government are presently undertaken through a system of auctions at market-related rates. The key lesson learned through this debt market reform process is that setting up such a market is not easy and needs a great deal of proactive work by the relevant authorities. An appropriate institutional framework has to be created for such a market to be built and operated in a sustained manner. Legislative provisions, technology development, market infrastructure such as settlement systems, trading systems and the like have all to be developed. Forex market reforms. The Indian foreign exchange forex market had been heavily controlled since the 1950s, along with increasing trade controls designed to foster import institution. Consequently, both the current and capital accounts were closed and foreign exchange was made available by the RBI through a complex licensing system. The task facing India in the early 1990s was therefore to gradually move from total control to a functioning foreign exchange market. The move towards a market-based exchange rate regime in 1993 and the subsequent adoption of current account convertibility were the key measures in reforming the Indian foreign exchange market. Reforms in the foreign exchange market focused on market development with prudential safeguards without destabilizing the market. Ready 2002A. Authorized dealers of foreign exchange have been allowed to carry on a large range of activities. Banks have been given large autonomy to undertake foreign exchange operations. In order to deepen the foreign exchange market, a large number of products have been introduced and entry of newer players has been allowed in the market. The Indian approach to opening the external sector and developing the foreign exchange market in a phased manner from current account convertibility to the ongoing process of capital account opening is perhaps the most striking success relative to other emerging market economies. There have been no accidents in this process. The exchange rate has been market determined and flexible, and the process has been carefully calibrated. The capital account is effectively convertible for non-residents but has some way to go for residents. The Indian approach has perhaps gained greater international respectability after the enthusiasm for rapid capital account opening has dimmed since the Asian crisis. Reforms in other segments of the financial sector. Measures aimed at establishing prudential regulation and supervision and also competition and efficiency enhancing measures have also been introduced for non-bank financial intermediaries as well. Towards this end, non-banking financial companies NBFCs, especially those involved in deposit-taking activities, have been brought under the regulation of RBI. Development finance institutions DFIs, specialized term lending institutions NBFCs, urban cooperative banks and primary dealers have all been brought under the supervision of the Board for Financial Supervision BFS, with the aim of regulatory convergence for entities involved in similar activities. Prudential regulation and supervision norms were also introduced in phases for DFIs, NBFCs and cooperative banks. The insurance business remained within the confines of public ownership until the late 1990s. Subsequent to the passage of the Insurance Regulation and Development Act in 1999, several changes were initiated, including allowing newer players joint ventures to undertake insurance business on risk sharing commission basis. The Insurance Regulatory and Development Agency IRDA has been established to regulate and supervise the insurance sector. The Insurance Regulatory and Development Agency IRDA has been established to regulate and supervise the insurance sector with the objective of improving market efficiency, increasing transparency, integration of national markets, and prevention of unfair practices regarding trading. A package of reforms comprising measures to liberalize, regulate, and develop capital market was introduced. An important step has been the establishment of the Securities and Exchange Board of India (SEBI) as the regulator for equity markets. Since 1992, reform measures in the equity market have focused mainly on regulatory effectiveness, enhancing competitive conditions, reducing information asymmetries, developing modern technological infrastructure, mitigating transaction cost, and controlling of speculation in the securities market. Another important development under the reform process has been the opening up of mutual funds to the private sector in 1992, which ended the monopoly of Unit Trust of India (UTI), a public sector entity. These steps have been buttressed by measures to promote market integrity. The Indian capital market was opened up for foreign institutional investors (FIIs) in 1992. The Indian corporate sector has been allowed to tap international capital markets through American Depository Receipts (ADRs), Global Depository Receipts (GDRs), foreign currency convertible bonds (FCCBs), and external commercial borrowings (ECBs). Similarly, overseas corporate bodies (OCBs) and non-resident Indians (NRIs) have been allowed to invest in Indian companies. FIIs have been permitted in all types of securities, including government securities, and they enjoy full capital convertibility. Mutual funds have been allowed to open offshore funds to invest in equities abroad. Moving on to the recent developments. From the vantage point of 2004, one of the successes of the Indian financial sector reform has been the maintenance of financial stability and avoidance of any major financial crisis during the reform period, a period that has been turbulent for the financial sector in most emerging market countries. While the basic objectives of monetary policy, namely price stability and ensuring adequate credit flow to support growth, have remained unchanged, the underlying operating environment for monetary policy has undergone a significant transformation. An increasing concern is the maintenance of financial stability. The basic emphasis of monetary policy since the initiation of reforms has been to reduce market segmentation in the financial sector through increase in the linkage between various segments of the financial market, including money, government securities, and forex market. The key policy development that has enabled a more independent monetary policy environment was the discontinuation of automatic monetization of the government's fiscal deficit through an agreement between the government and the RBI in 1997. The enactment of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act (FRBM) has strengthened this further from 2006. The Reserve Bank will no longer be permitted to subscribe to government securities in the primary market. The development of the monetary policy framework has also involved a great deal of institutional initiatives to enable efficient functioning of the money market. Development of appropriate trading, payments and settlement systems along with technological infrastructure. Let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. Financial sector is the backbone of any economy and it plays a crucial role in the mobilization and allocation of resources. The major aim in the early phase of reforms, known as first generation of reforms, was to create an efficient, productive and profitable financial service industry operating within the environment of operating flexibility and functional autonomy. The story of Indian financial reforms has been divided into four parts, viz. Banking reforms, debt market reforms, forex market reforms, reforms in other segments of the financial sector. From the vantage point of 2004, one of the successes of the Indian financial sector reform has been the maintenance of financial stability and avoidance of any major financial crisis during the reform period, a period that has been turbulent for the financial sector in most emerging market countries.